Hello there, Lightworkers fam! How are you? It is good to be back with you. We have a very, very exciting show for you today. My name is Elise. Welcome back to another episode of On a Lighter Note. If this is your first time joining us, then welcome, but where have you been? We do this all the time. It's so good that you're joining us, though, as usual. Let me know where you're joining us from, because today I'm pumped. This is so much fun because this is like a full circle moment for me. We are going to be having a chat to Nick Vujicic, who is such an inspiring human being. He is a New York Times bestseller. He is an author and a coach. He's an Australian, so already he's a legend. But Nick's story is unlike a lot of people's, and what he's overcome is something that in the year 2020, I think we need to be having a chat about. So we're going to bring him on in just a moment. Nick, welcome. I'm so excited to chat to you. But before we do, I want to remind you as well that our episode from last week with David and Lorenzo Henry, who are producing and acting in the new movie This Is the Year, that's going to be actually premiering tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. Pacific time. So we're going to let you see that. Make sure you're following Lightworkers on all of our platforms, because honestly, I just don't know why you wouldn't be. Honestly, in our day and age, we are trying to spread light even in tough times. So make sure that you are joining us, subscribing to us on all of the different things. But today, I am so excited. You need to share this with all your friends. Call your mom, call your dad, call your brother, your sister, all the peoples, all of your neighbors, and make sure they are watching right now, because this is going to be one of the most inspiring conversations. I already know it. Nick, no pressure, but I already know it's going to be, because honestly, this guy, Nick Vujicic, has overcome so much in his life. He was born without arms and without legs, and no one would blame him if he spent the rest of his life just wanting to survive. And yet what he's doing with his life, the inspiration that he is bringing to people is actually second to none. And he's inspired my life, my family's life, and I know he's going to inspire you today. So I'm so excited to be able to bring Nick on today to have a chat to us on a lighter note. Make sure that you are watching. Get ready. Take notes. Nick Vujicic, how are you?
Awesome.
Good to see you.
What's up?
Aussie.
Oi, oi, oi.
That's my guy. Look, I don't know if you remember. I mean, I guess you look different when you're 13 years old in Australia, but we have met a few times. I was, still am actually, technically, Michael Murphy's daughter from the Shire in Australia.
Of course. Hello, Shire Live, right? Michael Murphy.
That's
everyone
right.
There. I remember Jasmine. I remember all y'all. Around here, they say in Texas now, all y'all.
Yeah, I know. I've started saying y'all too. It's one of the things I said I'd never do. But it is so nice to see you. I remember being a teenage girl, and Dad would bring you out to our church all the time to preach. And he was, church kid showing here, prophesying over you, all the things that you're doing now. And so to be able to have this conversation is such a full circle moment for me. So thank you so much for joining us.
Love you, and love to everyone. Your dad was one of the first pastors, top 5 in Australia. Then when I was a little teenager, he said, yep, you can have the pulpit, but actually we were doing a lot more than just the average service. And so you guys were incredibly encouraging in Sydney, Australia. Wonderful full circle. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Listen, I moved to LA 7 years ago, so I am no longer living in Sydney, the beautiful shores of Australia, but neither are you. Listen, whenever I see a fellow Aussie, because you never really meet a fellow Aussie, you're already friends immediately. I was running the other day and I heard an Australian accent behind me, and I turned around, I was like, are you Australian? And she was like, yes. It's just, if you're not Australian, that's how it works with us. But I got to ask you, sometimes I get it confused and I need help with other Australians on USA versus Australian life. What's the biggest thing that you miss from Australia?
Gold Coast.
Really?
That's it. Look, we love the Tim Tams. You can't get the same Tim Tams out here.
Nope,
even
it's not
on the
the
world
same.
market. You can't do it. Never was a fan of Vegemite.
Oh,
I
wow.
I
Sad.
miss the fishing and digging up the pippies on the sand and then put them on a hook and catch a whiting. You know, the Chinese fish, the whiting, and eat that. I mean, I just look, we fished nearly every day when I was at the Gold Coast. So
Wow.
I moved when I was 15 years ago, 16 years ago, and I just moved out of California 2 months ago.
Oh, wow. Whoa, whoa, right during quarantine. During,
Yeah, during quarantine. Yeah, sold up,
wow.
moved to
Yeah.
Texas.
Wow. And then Texas kind of caught it. So you just, the virus followed you. Sorry about that.
Oh, I'm
Listen,
not worried about that. Trust me, I ain't worried about that.
I
But
believe you're not.
it's just where God wants us to be for the next season of our lives, and we knew about it like the move pre 2020. So we're thankful that we could still make the move smoothly. By the way, you're
So
looking
cool.
good.
Thank you so much. Listen,
But that's what I miss out of Australia. I miss that definitely. You know, the Gold Coast, and look, what's that town up in Sunshine? Maroochydore.
that's where I went for vacation every single year with my family. Maroochydore. If you have not been, you got to check out Maroochydore, Mooloolaba. The names in Australia too are just second to none.
Mooloolaba, Noosa Heads, all that stuff. Look, but the thing is that it just ain't what it was, and so that's why
It's
I'm
so
like,
true. Yep.
I
It's
know.
so true. I miss the
So look,
Australian money. Australian money, for those that don't know, is plastic and it's colorful and it makes shopping so much more fun than the Australian. It's little things like that that I just miss.
sure, sure.
I moved. So I moved like I said, I moved 7 years ago. I always tell people because they ask where home is now, and I'm like, Australia will always be home. LA is my city, so I'm building my life here now. But there's always that sentimental attachment in my family. My niece, my nephews, obviously my parents, they're all in back in Australia. So it feels like your heart can actually be in different places just for the rest of your life. It feels like, but I remember the growing pains of moving to America and to feeling like this is such a big change. Did you have that feeling when you moved, or were you immediately ready to move to America?
Oh no, it was 3 years in the making since 2002,
Wow.
and we made the move in '05. Fully moved, like visa and all. Came in here '03-ish, in and out quite a lot, constantly. And then 2 years into it, I nearly went back to Australia.
Really?
Yeah, and then my dad said, "Don't come back, stick it out," and I'm so glad I did.
Wow.
And then eventually my whole family came out here. So because of that, I think I was able to not think of Australia as home anymore. So I've got my US citizen, and I married my
Congrats.
Japanese Mexican wife. We call that Japsican.
We
We
love
got
that.
we got 4 kids, and she lived out here in Texas for many years, actually, 14 years. Wait a second. 14 minus, I don't know, 6 years before I moved her out to California. So
Amazing.
yeah, it's been incredible.
It's just all the different pieces coming together. Now, look, now obviously, people that have followed you, you're not a stranger to me, but you may be people may be seeing you for the first time from Lightworkers, and your story. I've said it a million times, and I'll say it a million more. Is one of the most inspiring stories that people will ever hear, and I'm aware that's a hyperbole, and I use them all the time, but I stand by it because your story is so unique and it's now equipping thousands, I'd say millions of people. But for those that may not know your story about living life without limitations, despite what life handed you in a sense, could you give maybe a brief version of your story?
Sure. So I'm 37 years old, and I was born in Melbourne, Australia in 1982 to lovely parents, Boris and Dushka Vujicic, who were in the 1960s fleeing Yugoslavia, and they were actually in refugee camps. Both of my grandpas were in jail for their faith before they escaped. A lot happened, and they came to Australia with nothing, met in Australia, had me as their firstborn son, and I was born without limbs. Now, my mom actually was a midwife in Australia. You know what a midwife is, where they handle everything. Out here in America, the midwives don't handle everything. Mm-hmm. In a birthing suite situation, the midwife did everything just about, except for the anesthesiologist. Actually, she even did, maybe, I don't know who did.
Wow.
But anyway, she handled a lot of the births that happened in this hospital that she was working in. When she was pregnant, she got too excited every time she did the ultrasound to actually make sure I had 10 fingers, 10 toes. And no one actually measured, right? You know how you normally do the measurement sometimes, you know, from the elbow to the fingers and the knee to the feet, just to see how, you know, big the baby is, whatever. Anyway, it didn't happen. So 3 ultrasounds, then I come and say, hi, everyone, and shock everyone. It took about 4 months for my mom to hold me and have peace holding me and
Wow.
actually accept what she couldn't change. I mean, they took me home. They loved me. My grandparents on both sides said, if you're going to give him up for adoption, we'll adopt him before anybody else. And they said, no, we're going to do our best and God will do the rest. They had a son and a daughter after me. So I'm the oldest of 3. And I went to, I mean, the doctors said that I'd never walk. I started walking. My doctor said I'd never go to school because, you know, at that time in Victoria, the law was...
Yeah, this was crazy.
Yeah, special needs child that have to go to special school. And so my mom's like, yeah, no, not really. And so they actually changed the law.
Come on, Mom. Moms.
I know, right? To the moms.
Yes.
The MUMs, moms.
The MUM moms.
Not to the moms. Moms. Anyway, so that happened, and I was one of the first to be integrated fully into the mainstream school system and having a teacher aide and all that kind of thing. But, you know, I had a wonderful experience, amazing schools, amazing school experience. But, you know, bullying is prevalent everywhere. And it's been an incredible journey of, you know, trying to figure out my place in this world. You know, at age 8, I had a fast track of a maturity of thinking about the bigger perspective of life. Like, if God's a God of love, then where is he? Why did I...
Sure.
You know, get shorthanded, right? Why is it this guy who's picking on me, like, he's so mean and he's more ugly than me? Like, why is it that he can now pick on me and then judge me when I could judge him? And so I looked at my teachers where, you know, I couldn't do a lot of the activities with my peers, and so I'd be caught talking to the teacher and figuring out, wait a second, my teacher ain't here for fun. They're here for a job. Mom and dad have a job. I'm not going to have a job. I'm not going to get a girlfriend. Not going to ever get married. Never going to be independent. I'm just going to be a burden to everyone around me. Everyone's going to be bullying me for the rest of my life. And so I entered a depression of 8.5 years old, 8 years. And then I attempted suicide at age 10, tried to drown myself in my bathtub, believing that there was no hope. And it's quite scary trying to take your own life, because once you're dead, you're dead. You can't come back. And so, unless God does something. But what was interesting was, you know, looking at that bathtub for the first time as my coffin, telling my dad to shut the door. And I said, just give me a couple minutes, just want to soak. And then the one thing that stopped me was, you know, thinking my mom and my dad, wait a second, what about them? Like, imagine the pain I'm going to leave with them.
Wow.
And I don't want to leave that behind. I saw them crying at my grave in my head, and I'm like, hey, I'm not going through with it. As bad as my pain is, I don't want to leave that pain, because then they can't get rid of that for the rest of their life.
Wow.
So I thought of that all at age 10 by the grace of God. Age 13, I didn't talk to God for 4 or 5 years. I hated God for 4 or 5 years. It didn't make any sense to me. Nothing about God actually made sense to me. I was a preacher's kid, right? So I had to go and preach. And I'm like, how could Dad ever talk about a God who loves us when his own son wasn't given what God should have given him?
Right.
And anyway, at age 13, real quick, hurt my foot playing soccer, was in bed for 3 weeks, realized I have a choice. I was be angry at God for what I don't know, what I don't have, or be thankful for what I do have. And age 15, we were at Bible study, read John chapter 9. A man was born blind. No one knew why I was born that way. Jesus said it was done so that the works of God would be revealed through him. And he, healed the blind man. I'm like, wait a second. What was beautiful was that his answer to the question. I already heard about the miracles, and God didn't give me mine. So I didn't care that just another miracle happened. Does, whatever. But when Jesus said it was done so that the works of God would be revealed through him, I realized that, if he gives me arms and legs, that'll be amazing. And today I have a pair of shoes in my closet just in case, because he's already healed my back.
Come on.
of an incurable disease.
Wow.
Called the syrinx, that I was diagnosed in 2002 in Brisbane before I moved. Wow. And you see the MRIs where these holes close up, and it's impossible, medically speaking. So I have a pair of shoes in my closet, and I've seen blind people seeing, deaf people hearing, lame people walking crooked back come straight, and I've seen miracles and all that kind of stuff. It's been awesome. But for real, what was really awesome was that, okay, how cool would it be to have arms and legs? And the people who knew me without arms and legs would be changed. But imagine all the 7 billion people out there who would think it's just a hoax. So it's up to God what he wants to do. And so what's a greater miracle to argue with? A limbless boy who was given arms and legs, or a limbless man who would then go around the world to be his hands and feet, meet 21 presidents, vice presidents, speak in front of 10 governments, 3 million books later in 40 languages, 1 billion people on TV in China saw me, 1 billion people outside of China saw me, and of which our ministry, check this out, please, lifewithoutlimbs.org, please,
we'll put it in the chat.
We've been able to actually reach 733 million people with the gospel of Jesus Christ, with people no more than 15 on our team. And it's just been an incredible ride. So I've done 74 countries up to 37 times. And our largest crowd was in 2017, 800,000 people on the streets of Ukraine, with 52.7 million people watching on TV in 26 countries. And so it's been a humbling experience. 2,500 plane rides later, reaching 10% of the world so far. And now with COVID, it hasn't even slowed us down. We're now fast-tracking our 10-year virtual digital ministry like crazy. We're already in 114 prisons, and not only people who are inmates in prisons give their life to Jesus, then we train them to actually preach the gospel to other people. So we're talking about whole sections of prisons coming to Jesus. And so like that's just one little fraction of what's going on. Plus now I've got a wife, 4 kids.
Yes, you do.
2 sons, 7, 4, and twin girls that are nearly 3. And incredible team out in California, the best team you could ever ask for, best board you could ever ask for. And my for-profit, you know, I have to say, it's really been struggling. We had a really rough, really rough year. And it's finally stabilizing. And now it's like, instead of Nick speaking on the road, you know, motivationally, to open up in school systems as well, like curriculum, like working with state government, social emotional learning curriculum that, you know, acknowledges all diversity, you know, that we all have our differences, you know, whether it's sexual orientation or whether it's race, religion, disability, autistic, Down syndrome, you know, like we must understand that everyone has value. I may not agree with everyone. We all may have different religions and philosophies of life, but to give life a chance, which is fantastic. And so I just want people to understand that there is hope. And if you want more to know about my faith and my decisions based on the Bible, please go to lifewithoutlimbs.org. There's lots of videos there, including our favorite one is Knowing God. And then there's another one where I'm actually speaking in front of a maximum security prison, and you see the full sermon there. And so anyway, that's the whole, you know, thing where the for-profit opens up doors. I was actually in Iran in 2018.
Of course you were.
And, no one, you know, they can't find my fingerprints anywhere.
King of your own jokes, aren't you?
That's the whole summary. I know that was more than 5 minutes. 10 minutes, but that's basically the whole summary of everything.
I don't know why I said summary. It's not like you can put your story in a tweet. Like, it's incredible, Nick. And every time I hear it, I'm astounded again. I listened to, you do have the new, the Nick Vujicic podcast that you've got, which is going incredible now. I don't know why it took you so long to do it, but that's fine. We won't go into that. But you're doing it now, and that's what's important. But I listened to the first one that was actually now on YouTube with the extended version of your story. And I was driving, which is already dangerous because I'm on the other side of the road. It's a whole thing. But just in tears, listening again to you tell your story and the courage that it puts into me that is not facing anywhere near what you have gone through. But it's like you've taken your life that was what the enemy meant for evil, God bringing it around for good, that was meant to limit you, and you're now using it to liberate other people. And now with 2020, with COVID, with the world shutting down, it's almost like you have burst open to a whole new realm of technology through your podcast. How is it, I guess, first of all, coming into a year like 2020? Because a lot of people feel like there's been limitations put on them, which they just need to listen to your story and be like, they're going to be okay. But it's been a tough year for a lot of people in terms of feeling like they're having these growing pains. They're being taken out of their normal. They're being limited, whether it was through COVID into quarantine, which resulted in a bunch of jobs being lost, to racial injustice and the pain and tension that is still being felt from all of that. How have you processed this year with your own filter, already having overcome so much?
Woo! So, the limitation is real. Look, COVID is real. It's not fake, right?
Right.
We know that it's real. I have my own opinion on what COVID is and what should have been done and what should not have been done.
Sure.
And I'm very careful with what I share publicly, and it kind of angers me.
Sure.
But the interesting aspect of all of this is that our limitations are real, right? Depending where you're at, like you have to,
Sure.
and it's a flu, right? And it does kill people. My aunt in Australia passed away last week from COVID. Okay.
Ugh, I'm so sorry.
And so thanks. And it sucks, and it's real. And then you got families all around the world who can't even see their loved ones and say their last
Right.
word, right? And so, like, none of this is fake, yeah? And I'm not glossing over any of it. But when it comes to, you not just going along with the crowd in thinking along the lines of what the people around you are thinking, and actually trying to figure out what the heck is going on and what is this. And then also in the spiritual realm, right? So you got the body, you got the mind, you got the spirit, and then the soul. It begins with the soul. And so for us to know that your soul is saved. In fact, if you look at most major religions, you don't have an assurance of salvation. You hope that you're good enough to get in. Mm-hmm. Me believing in the Savior who died for my sins, who's forgiven me of my sins, I know that if this is my last breath, I'm going home, baby. Like, there's no, well, you did this and blah. Okay. So I have a peace, and I've seen the power of God, and I've seen demons. I've seen miracles. I told you, I've seen exorcisms. And when you see the power of Jesus in his name,
Come on.
you're not afraid of death. Now, does it concern me when I get 3 death threats and I find a grenade at my property? Yeah, for sure. Am I stupid? No.
Right.
And so, but you don't let the sleep go away.
Wow.
Someone's falsely accusing you
Right.
on an article, and it's, whatever. You figure it out, okay, what do we do with wisdom? Do we react? Do we not react? God will take care of things, and he'll sometimes tell you to act. He'll sometimes take you to not act. But I think what the big thing here is what is God wanting to do?
Very good.
Because many churches now go to, well, we got to pray for COVID. Ignorantly saying, oh, I'm covered with the blood of Jesus, I'm not dying of COVID. Christians die of COVID. Christians die of cancer. Christians die of plane crashes. I mean, don't be stupid. And so we got to be careful with what we say.
Very good.
And then what is God doing? And many people say, well, let's pray for revival. I didn't even know if we even know what revival even looks like.
Come on, preach now.
And it's like, okay, we want COVID to pass. Great. We want revival to break out. Great. 2 Chronicles 7:14, my people come and humble themselves and pray to me and ask me for forgiveness of sins, I'll forgive them and heal their land. The problem is the missing point here. We've had national days of prayer. We've had many days of prayer. I don't know who's actually been fasting without food. I mean, black and white in the Bible, there are some things that prayer don't break, baby.
Come on, Nick.
It takes prayer and fasting. How many days have the average Christian fasted only for COVID? I don't know how many. Oops. Oh, did I just say that? Oops.
You did. You
No,
fully did.
Oops. Okay, so then and how many people have actually listed out 100 sins of your country and asked God to forgive your country of your sin?
Wow.
Repentance. Okay, so you look at Daniel, he actually asked God for the forgiveness of sins of the land. When was the last time you sat down for an hour and listed out the sins of your country? Okay, so like seriously, man, like is God really going to heal a people that are so fat and comfortable?
Come on.
Sorry, I ain't praying for revival, baby. I ain't, because I don't think it's coming. I actually think a rude awakening is coming, and I actually think we are the most ill-prepared generation for suffering, for persecution. And this is the coolest thing about this whole thing. It boils down all the distractions like, oh my gosh, I don't even know what happens in the end times. Can someone sit me down as a Gen Z and tell me, what does this all mean? What if my parents make me to have the mark of the beast? What, I mean, like seriously, what do I do when I'm in a state that passes laws that I would be absolutely adhere to? Do I sit? Do I stay? Do I fight? Do I defend? Do I move out of state? You know, like big thing.
Got it.
I'm sorry I'm going on, but I have to go. Just give me 3 more minutes.
Yeah, I got you.
Because I feel very sorry for the Gen Z people.
Wow.
I really do.
Wow.
I really, really do. Because they grew up in a church, if they grew up in church, where mostly we've been told, love God, love people, and give to the church, and you'll be okay. If you got that sin, just pray it away instead of actually getting counseling.
Yeah.
Professional counseling by a Christian counselor that should be sponsored by the church. The issues of the heart here is that I don't even know what we believe is revival until we can actually teach each other how to pray for more than 10 minutes. And I mean in English, if they speak in English. You know, like for real, my prayer life changed in 2018. I'm just telling you what I've learned, okay, that no one ever taught me.
Right.
I actually wrote out my prayer. My prayer now goes for 12 minutes long. I actually realized that if I love someone who's depressed and I'm the only one who knows that they're depressed, and I believe in the spiritual realm where we can actually, you know, pray for principalities and powers of darkness to break. If I'm not praying and fasting for them, who is?
Wow.
You know, like, God, thank you for today. Bless this food. Amen. That is not a personal relationship with the Lord Jesus Christ.
Right.
And so what we got to do is pray. And what I love about this, now coming back to your question, you're going to love how I bring this full circle.
Look at that. Look at you full circling it up.
So what has this done for me? I think what's this done first of all.
I forgot about the question I asked you. I've like been on this journey with you.
Yeah, no, I love it. And I'm bringing you back your question. So what we got to understand is this. All of this into context. So you understand that. Now when you understand that, not just knowledge, understand, then the wisdom is, then, okay, what's the most important thing? And it's almost as if there's a subconscious fear of inadequacy for us to talk to our friends at this time, because we might actually be asked by our friends, so where's Jesus now?
Right.
And what's interesting is that we need to teach people that pain doesn't come from God. None of this is a surprise to God. What this is being used by the enemy will turn into good. Let me tell you exactly how. The Gen Z are the most honest, real, no fluff people millennials, Gen Z, probably one of the most egotistical, prideful, yet at the same time compassionate, loving, and giving. And they actually want to know the truth.
Yeah.
And so there's no greater way to understand with what you just said. The preface of the question was, what did I do? But really, we all have a story. It's our history is his story.
Yes.
Simply share with the people
Your story.
who you were before Jesus. Forget about pre-COVID, post-COVID, pre you meeting Jesus and after meeting Jesus. What changed for you? And what is your rock? And why can you still have peace? And why can you still have strength? And what do you know that I don't know about this God who loves me, who can rescue my soul, raise me from the dead, even if I die from COVID? And give me that peace. That's the strength I want. That no matter what weapon formed against me comes, if I die of cancer, if I die of COVID, if I die of this or that, not to be arrogant that I'm not respecting safe distancing, but you got to understand though that death itself don't hold anybody down. That's why you have a mentality of life without limits, because greater is he, Jesus, who is in you than anything and he in the world. There is no weapon formed against you, no false accusation, no power, no principality of darkness. You're unstoppable. I'm already living forever. If I die today, hallelujah! I'm going home, baby. I'm going home. This, every conversation I have, when I kiss her in bed tonight, it could be my last kiss. Awesome. I'm going home. She gonna be okay. We're all gonna be okay. My kids die. There's Christians who lose their children. That's hard. I can't imagine that pain. But then they get that history and share that as his story of how God helped them to overcome their pain and actually their tragedies and see God change it into triumph so they can actually counsel another parent who just lost a kid. Yeah. To let them know, hey, your brokenness, I understand what it means to be sexually abused. I understand what it means to have some Christians who judge me for who I was and what I had. But then I found the real truth of God, and I found out, wow, he has given me the Bible, and I read the Bible as it is, black and white today in 2020. I can't change the version of it. It is what it is. It's written in the word, and by the grace of God, I believe it, and I see it, and I live it. That's it.
Nick, he says that's it. He says
by the grace of God. That's it.
Dude, it's like, it's contagious. That's a terrible word to use. But it is when I talk to you, because I feel this courage being put in me, and I hope people are feeling that through the screen. I know they would be, because it's not about through a screen. Like, I can feel it in my home, you're in yours, and I feel like what you just did was you showing us all that the limitation of your whatever it was trying to put on your life, right? That is a very real physical limitation. The limitations that have been put on 2020, very real limitations. But I'm looking at you talking more confidently than I have seen anyone talk in, I won't say how long to not offend anyone, but I am. And I'm realizing, oh man, the limitation isn't about what life handed me. It's about what I really believe deep down. And you talk in the podcast a lot about the limitation, the greatest disability we can have is in our mind, and it's affecting everything. You just talked about the spirit and what God's doing. What's the biggest limitation that you're seeing in your life that we have in our mind? What are some symptoms of it, and what do we do about it?
Yeah, so look, the first thing that we got to understand, I'm going to give you the 4 pillars of survival, okay? The first thing is you got to embrace what you feel. You can't ignore what you feel.
Don't deny it, yeah.
Don't deny it, embrace it, go through it, okay? So when my parents saw me, they went through shock, they went through grief, they went through sadness and sorrow and mourning over the dream that, having a healthy baby boy, and the dreams that they had there within died right there and then. And what great things God had in mind. And so you go through that, and you go through denial, and you go through this, okay? So Number one is embracing where you're at. That also includes not just the emotions. So when you have these emotions, maybe you need to talk to someone. Maybe you need to journal. Maybe you need a counselor. Maybe you need to just connect with somebody. If you're suicidal, call your local hotline right now.
Come on.
If you're suicidal, I'm telling you, unfortunately, Elise, am I saying your name right?
Yeah.
Elise, I feel that 2020's rates of suicide, depression, pornographic addiction, double all around from 2019. The mental health deterioration, when you understand what's going on, I just want everyone to know, don't do this on your own.
Come on.
It's okay to be depressed. I'm a Christian. Why am I depressed? We all go through that. I mean, 2020, I'm talking to you courageously. At least if you did this interview 3 months ago, I would not have had the courage that I had today.
Wow.
You want to know why?
Why?
Because it took a process. It took a process of me to actually go through shock, going through denial, then figure out, wait a second, how much can I play the victim card for? Because Nick Vujicic played the victim card for a couple weeks. Guess what? It's good to lay it down finally, right?
Wow.
We all go there.
And it's important to admit that, right?
100%.
That
Everyone
we all played
should.
the victim card this year. I played it multiple times for multiple days.
Me too. Okay. And, you know, I'm like, man, I felt like I had a good morning, and 1 p.m. comes, I'm like,
right? It's like Groundhog Day, and it's like by 5 p.m. every day we're doing this. Yeah, I get it. Totally.
I can't peel myself off the floor. Okay. So no courageous person who's trying to sell you a book is going to tell you, right? You know, unless it's for real. And how long it took. So I don't even remember now. I had 2 weeks of shock.
Netflix and chill.
I had 2 weeks of panic after that.
Sure. And
then it was a month of like numbness. And I'm like, wait, where are my legs? Like, can't even, And so like, we gotta figure that out, that, you know, all of us have to go through this. Okay?
Yeah.
They had to talk to them. What's beautiful is in talking to people, you don't need always a professional counselor, but I needed professional counseling in most of my life where I had crisis. And recently though, I realized how beautiful it is just to reconnect with friends. I feel like there was a subconscious fear, again, to connect with friends that you really desperately need, not just text, but on the phone.
Yep.
Because you feel like you feel like, well, they don't know more than you, and they're going through what you're going through. So what's the point of hearing their voice? Now, actually, what's beautiful is just listening to each other and each other's voices, and even talking about, hey, what did your kid do this week that, you know, they didn't do 2 months ago, right? And actually, just the weekly calls. I did a weekly call with friends to get over that.
Great.
As well. And what was cool is I got helped and they got helped at the same time.
Yeah.
Saying again, embracing where you're at. Last thing here, it's the level C of number 1. It's actually try to change what you can and then accept what you cannot.
Huge. Yep.
Great. So number 2, attitude of gratitude.
Great. Moving on.
Attitude of gratitude. A, being thankful for what you have. And you know when it sucks, when it's bad, it's really crap and you're like freaking annoyed. Okay, so this is what you do. Ready? You're not just thankful for what you did. Sorry, for what you have. When it gets so bad, you're thankful for what could have gone even worse and it didn't.
Dude, I'm going to do a lap. I'm about to take a lap. Because I read a book once, a couple of years ago. I went through a horrible divorce that was so heartbreaking. And I remember in it listening to a book. And it was a woman that was the CFO of Facebook. And she was saying someone actually said to her one day, it could have been worse. And she said she wanted to slap them until she realized actually that goes along with gratitude of being grateful, even if it's not for what you have, for what maybe you're protected from that you didn't even know. Huge.
Yep. Massive.
Huge.
Huge.
Huge. All right, keep going. The people need more.
Number 3, which one can I tell you? I don't know which one I'd go next. I would say
huge. Ugh.
Obstacles or opportunities. You know, the greatest things that ever were birthed, whether it's entrepreneurial, whether it was breakthrough in your spiritual life, whether it was the crisis, it was the depression, it was the desperation, it was the despair, it was the, what do I normally say? What's that thing called? desperation births revolution. That's it.
I gotta pass out. I gotta go. This is too much. I can't do this.
So obstacles. I mean, everyone looks at me as like resilient. Look at anybody who never did steroids, right? That brought hormones in their physical body to make muscles. Okay, for a second.
Right.
And they naturally look after their body and they exercise and they work out. You know, like the word resilience. Everyone says, you know, how do you become so resilient? It's because that you've actually become accustomed to resilience lifestyle, where you're accustomed to having resistance.
Ah, I love
So
that.
when you pick up the weight and you have resistance against gravity, it forces your muscle to pump blood, engage your muscle, and the more you do that, the bigger it goes. Very simple. And so for it to understand the word resilience, I'm resilient because I've had to exercise the muscle of resilience because of the challenges in my time that I didn't think was always a bad thing, but actually eventually was a good thing because it made me who I am.
Wow. Well, I can't, like, who you are, Nick, is incredible. And what you're now doing, even this short time we've had together, I feel like I have to go and process now for a month, because it comes out of who you are. It's not just words, it's what you've lived. And you can feel the difference in someone when they've read it in a book and when they've built the muscle themselves. And so,
or regurgitating someone else's sermon.
Exactly. Or they've like heard this on YouTube, taken their own notes, regurgitated the same story, and you're like, you're telling a story about your wife and you're not even married. Like, what are you doing? What's happening? You know? But like, it's so refreshing. So thank you for sharing with us. And thank you, seriously, thank you for finally doing your podcast. The Nick Vujicic podcast is now available for people. How's that been to birth that during this time?
Yeah, look, I appreciate it. It wasn't 3 obstacles and opportunities. I'll leave you with one more.
Yes. I was like done. I was out. I gotta.
So never give up. Take one day at a time. And so look, this was a very, I didn't know how Christian you want to go to. I didn't really have much notes about this. And I had, but I didn't. And I didn't know how deep you'd go. But I felt, God, let's go deep. Let's deep dive.
I appreciate that.
I'm glad that we did that. So I have no regrets. But if anybody was like, oh my God, Nick's such a crazy Christian, I can't handle the Christianese. Awesome. That's fine. Okay. Go to the, youtube.com/Nick Voyage's channel. We've only got, I don't know, not even 10,000 subscribers. We just started about 22 weeks ago.
Amazing.
And, but we're morphing, it's going to be quite an exciting chapter the next 6 months, and having to reset my business on the motivational circuit. I've actually got a list of 9 books that I want to write.
Of course you do.
Yeah, so it's really, really fun, actually. I finally feel like I turned the corner 3 weeks ago.
Amazing.
And so I'm really, really excited, Elise, and I'm glad that please, if anyone's depressed, if anyone just wants a motivational coach kind of thing, like, don't give me the Christian Jesus stuff. Just help me. Like, okay, great. Okay, good. I love you first, and great, wonderful. Please just go to youtube.com/Nick Vujicic. Check me out as well, Instagram, Nick Vujicic.
I love it. It's going to be so incredible and powerful. And it's not even, it is your story and it's so inspirational, but it's also leadership. Like, you have so many leadership conversations on there.
Oh my God. Yeah, our Wednesdays. Okay, so for anyone who wants leadership, every Wednesday now for the last, 15, 16, 17 weeks, my own leadership coach that's been coaching me for 6 years, we have a deep dive every single Wednesday. Check it out, Leadership Now series. It's unbelievable for anyone working with a team or head of a department of any organization or any company. Oh my gosh. If you just listen to it and you just take one nugget a week, oh my gosh, it's like, thank you.
Absolutely. And it's like that, it really is. If someone's watching and they're like, hey, I want to start on one, I'm going to ask you, what's been your favorite, and don't like make anyone mad, but like, what's been your favorite conversation with someone on your podcast thus far? Or like favorite moment? Asking the tough questions today.
Look, I had a wonderful interview today that's pre-recorded with Scott Miller from the Franklin Covey Group, and he's based out of Utah. Holy freaking! Talk about leadership.
Really?
Talk about number one. He's the number one. Yeah, look him up. Scott Miller.
I can't right now. I'm talking to you, but I will.
He is the number one. I mean, he just got a 9-book deal.
Jeez.
And this guy's just freaking, like, he's a force of nature. What was amazing, I want you to look at, just so you understand kind of where we're going. Can I take 2 more minutes? Is that okay?
Yes, please. I have nowhere to be. It's 2020.
Oh, I love it. I have no plane to catch. How freaking good is that?
Great.
You're so cool. We had an incredible talk with the guy that invented in 1966 virtual reality technology for the U.S. government.
What?
Yeah, he's amazing. His name's Tom Furness, Furness. He's a friend of mine, and I interviewed him, and so we talked about virtual reality. Right, I'm about to do a gig in virtual reality, like seriously. Okay,
I believe it.
I'm so excited. It's coming up in a couple of weeks. I'm really happy. But what's interesting was when I first put on the goggles, looked down and saw my legs, freaked me out. And like an avatar.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know. So like, I actually feel like, how the internet has been used for the glory of God?
Yeah.
And we also know that the internet has been used for the kingdom of darkness.
Sure.
Same thing with virtual reality.
Right.
And I feel like, can we just hurry up, Christians, and not still be behind 10 years?
Come on.
I mean, because like we got to like figure it out. Like talking about like stuff, like I'm actually building an app. Actually.
Of course you are. Of course you are.
And I'm going to teach people how to pray.
Wow.
And then 5 years from now, we're going to start a platform that'll be a virtual heaven. And then I'll be able to record my testimony looking into VR, and my great-great-great-grandkids, if Jesus hasn't come back, they get to see a VR recording of the great-great-great-grandpa in heaven, look in the eyes for 20 minutes and say, just letting you all know is my bloodline. This is how I gave my life to Jesus. I mean, like, seriously, have we done that yet? Like, most of us haven't even written down our story yet, our testimony, which is the most important part of our whole life.
Yeah.
That's the people we're gonna, those are the people we're gonna hug in heaven.
Yeah.
Those just say, look, you were there for me. You shared your story. Thank you for sharing the gospel. Yeah, it's like nothing else matters, man.
This whole conversation has reminded me of something that I felt like God spoke to me about at the very beginning of quarantine, and I was like everyone in the second week of quarantine, like, what is happening to the world? Why am I still in my house? Like at the beginning when Groundhog Day was funny, like I was still back there, but like, what is this going to look like? And I was reading my Bible, and I was reading the story of Gideon when it says that the Lord visited Gideon in the wine press and said he was threshing wheat in the wine press, and he called him out of the wine press. And the reason they were in there was, for those that don't know, was because the Midianites were coming for Gideon and his people, and they kept stealing their wheat that they would thresh, because you thresh wheat on a mountain. And so they hid in the wine press. And then God was calling Gideon out of the wine press. And God spoke to me so clearly and said, Elise, I've had to call the church out of the wine press, out of the four walls, because it was safe for a season. I called them to that for a season, the way church was done for a season. And yet what we do for a season, what we have as a hiding place, can sometimes become our home if we stay there in the comfort of it. And this whole conversation is just reminding me of that again, because you have I think that God has corporately and individually called us out of whatever we were in before, that place for all of us that we had that was comfortable, that place that was necessary for a season. But if we're honest, I stayed in mine for too long. And I'm watching you talk and share your story and what you're doing. And I just feel so strongly that like, that is, God's called you out of the wine press onto the battlefield. And there was for sure victory. Like, God always comes through that stuff. But it's so encouraging to hear how you're adapting and how God calls you out of something into something new. And I think if we're obedient to that, the reality of it, whether it's virtual reality, whether it's doing lives instead of seeing people in person, God's moving in an even bigger way than I think we ever thought possible. And that is, again, what the enemy meant for evil, God can turn around for good and for even more. So it's so encouraging, Nick, to talk to you today. I'm so glad we got to chat. I feel like Instagram's about to kick us off.
Okay, wait a second.
You better tell Instagram to wait.
I gotta tell you, I'm gonna find it.
Find it.
1 second. I
Okay.
have to. Okay, I'm gonna tell you 2 books that are not mine.
All right. Well, that's unusual, but I love that.
I got 5 books. If you want one, you'll find it. I couldn't care less. But
what a marketing man!
but
For those that say Nick is about self-promotion, if anyone would ever say that, there's your proof that he's not.
here.
Okay. Tipping point. Jimmy Evans. Oh, my dad's told me about this book.
Okay. Got it?
Yep. Tipping Point by Jimmy Evans.
You guys gotta get it. I mean, Gen Z, millennials, oh my God, if anybody wants to know anything about blah, 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 about Revelations and the end times and the mark of the beast and scriptural based stuff of the end times. He's in the middle of a series. Check him out. He's on Gateway Church online every week. He's been going through one, and so really, really huge. The other one, I want everyone to get this book. Look it up. I think the most wanted, let me make sure I give you the right title. The author is Joseph Bondarenko.
Okay.
And he is a general in the army that was kidnapped by the KGB back in the day as a guinea pig to show what they were going to do to all the Christians who do not renounce their faith. He went through 9 months of torture, ridiculous, torture.
Wow.
And he survived, and he came out, and then you remember that big gig I told you, 800,000 people in Ukraine? So they asked me to speak in front of 800,000 people. I only had one request. You want to know what my one request was? Said he'd speak before I do. And they're based in America now. They sought asylum in America. And I want you to look at it's called The KGB's Most Wanted.
The KGB's Most Wanted.
Most Wanted by Joseph Bondarenko.
Okay.
I can't explain to you how much his story needs to be blasted out to all the Western world who has no idea what it means to be persecuted and to get ready for it.
Wow.
Joseph Bondarenko is one of the, I've met Billy Graham, and this guy's right up there. I'm telling you, just the best. Look at Joseph Bondarenko. Lots of videos online, but buy the book. Just get the book.
Absolutely.
KGB's Most Wanted by Joseph Bondarenko.
We will put both of those links when we post this and all that kind of stuff. Nick, you are incredible. Thank you so much for chatting today, for having a good old catch up, it felt like.
Man, it was like a fire hydrant.
It was the best. I'm so grateful for it. It's what we needed today. We need fire hydrants at the moment because that's the world we're living in. So I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful that you are continuing just to do what only you can do. And I think that's the real thing coming out of this year is God is showing us the things that only we can do. And this is only Nick can do this. So I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you for being with us. I cannot say thank you enough. And we'll put all the links. Check out his podcast. Check out all of his things. Seriously. Love you.
Love you. Hey, I'm going to tell you something funny. So I'm 3 foot tall. Guess what?
What?
I'm the same height as a fire hydrant.
Well, see?
Of living waters. Like, how cool is that?
Dude, I kind of love that. You got to put like a photo next to one.
I'll probably look like a minion or something, but I'm going to do something like that.
Everyone loves minions. I don't know like what the problem is with that. You know what I mean?
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Elise, say hi to your family in the church.
I will absolutely. Love you. I'll chat to you soon.
Ciao.
Oh, he's the best. I hope that you feel like you have been well, not hose with a fire hydrant. That would be dangerous, it feels like. But I hope that you feel encouraged. I hope that you was able to catch some of that inspiration and courage and all the things that Nick represents. So make sure you check out his podcast, the Nick Vujicic podcast. You can find it at all the places the podcasts are. Check out his books. We will put the links to the other 2 books that he recommended as well. And we're going to post this later on the Lightworkers page, so make sure you're following us on all of those pages. But I'm going to go run because I just have energy now. So thank you, Nick, for joining us. We love you guys so much. Make sure if you have not picked up a Lightworkers mask that you go to the link in our bio here at Lightworkers. Grab yourself a mask. They will not last very much longer. I've got both sitting there. I have a clean bucket and a dirty bucket for masks. You know how it is these days. So they're in the clean one, which is great. So make sure you go get them. I don't know why I told you that. Also, we will be releasing our episode with David and Lorenzo Henry tomorrow afternoon, 4:30 p.m. Pacific time. I think that's it for me. So I love you guys. I'll see you guys soon. Love ya.